Yeah, so about 60 to 70% of costs are driven by compensation for people that work at these institutions. And I'm sorry, I don't need to be taught by Henry Louis Gates Jr., a Nobel laureate, or a Rhodes Scholar
Why you
for
gotta
every
play them
class.
like that?
For
Stop.
Welcome to another episode of the Sis Please podcast. I'm Satta.
And I'm Jaretta. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, so we are wearing our college sweatshirts today, but it's actually our grad school sweatshirts because neither one of us could find our stuff from undergrad. And you know how they say yesterday's price is not today's price? Well, yesterday's size is not today's size because I
Facts.
graduated from college in 2006, so 17 years ago. So even if I still had that stuff, it definitely wouldn't have fit me.
Yeah.
So
And I graduated, it's going to be 9 years in May. But I do need to buy some of my Mount Holyoke paraphernalia. So,
exactly. So to kick things off, I have a trivia question, multiple choice question for you. You ready?
ooh, I like multiple choice.
Okay. So what is the average student loan debt in America? So A, 26,552, B, $37,574, or C, $41,283.
Mm, I should know this. I think the last time I saw the stats, which was a couple of years ago, it was around 30. So I'm going to go with B, the 37,000.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct.
Hey,
Yes, I mean, that is a lot of money.
it is a
I
lot of
mean,
money. That's a down
yeah,
payment for our house.
that's a car. You could start a business with that, a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, so $37,574 is the correct answer. And then obviously, student loan debt has gotten out of hand, but in a certain sense, it's a necessary evil. You know, today we're going to talk about student loan debt and whether your student loans were worth it, which we'll answer at the end. But to give you some background, we both took out thousands of dollars in student loans. And like I said, but the question we'll explore today is whether we think it was worth the price. So I guess we can start off by, Jaretta, tell us a little bit about your student loan experience.
Yeah. When I think about my student loan experience, it's definitely underneath the average. So I'm really thankful. And just to kick it off, I think about our parents, more so like our mom, who I think a couple episodes in we talked about how, especially with Liberian parents, education could never be taken away from you. And it was also really helpful to have you explore the college process, but you are 8 years older. So like I had you as a guide, but I knew that I had to kind of seek out help. And even though I was going to a Catholic preparatory school at the time, my guidance counselor, who was well intentioned, just kind of, I ain't even going to throw any shade. Like she just wanted all the Black kids to go to community college or state school, which again, nothing wrong with that. But I knew that with my grades, and I think me being a over, well-rounded student, that I wanted to get out of Rhode Island because, I feel like once you stay in Rhode Island, you live in Rhode Island for life. So I was really thankful that I had friends who participated in this after school program called College Visions. And College Visions was so huge. So, College Visions is a nonprofit that helps first gen low income students navigate like the college process. So it was really helpful just having like a advisor that whole year going through the FAFSA process, going through the college essays, going through like what mommy could afford or what we couldn't afford. And then also kind of just looking at the other things like my grades to see if these are schools that I can possibly get into. And also, do they have a good financial aid package? So I'm so glad that, I had, I guess, like just the resourcefulness to be like, okay, let me explore other options given like the grades and the talents that I had. I'm not even trying to brag. Actually on the board of College Visions right now. And that just, it means so much to me because during that time I actually had like a death. My dad had passed away during that time. So college was kind of something that I always wanted to go to. But I think when you're dealing with such a thing in your life, like it was also helpful that not only did I have college advisors, but I had like folks who are like my friends and family, like also supporting me through that tough time. And I think it's really important that everybody has that, especially high school students navigating that process. So my three choices, I think it was Union College, Loyola Maryland, and Mount Holyoke. And I ended up choosing Mount Holyoke, which was an all women's college, the first all women's college in the US. And it's kind of funny because my college advisor, or one of them, was just like, hey, given you're really into social justice and community service, I think this would be a great college for you. 18-year-old Jaretta was more problematic. And it was just like, I'm not going to no all women's college. Like, where am I supposed to meet guys at? And I loved he was just like, you need to get rid of your preconceived notions and try it. So I ended up never visiting the campus, but once I got accepted and where the cars fell where they may, I visited. Mommy, she kind of was like, I don't know about all this, but I ended up loving it. And I said, hey, I really would want to go there. And I think that was the best decision that I made. And I think coming out of Mount Holyoke College, I think I was like $17,000 in debt, which
So
is,
like what like financial aid, what did they give you a combination of scholarships, grants, and then some loans?
yeah. But I think like after graduating, I was like $17,000 in the hole, which is not, again, not bad during like the national average. I would have to go back and look at what my package was. And then I think for grad school, so I didn't go to grad school unlike like my sister who went straight from BU
No,
to
I
North.
took a year off.
Okay, a year, but I took like I think 4. Yeah, I took 4 years. So, and then I did AmeriCorps for 2 years. Mind you, I was not making any money. I was making below minimum wage at one
Mm.
point, and but then doing nonprofit jobs. But I think me having those 4 years to like give back to my community and doing all different types of things and all different nonprofits, I think really helped my application when I applied to Harvard, Brown, and NYU. And you see, again, I tell y'all, I believe in Jesus Christ because I had the feeling like after my last job before grad school, I was just like, listen, I need to apply to grad school. I need to look at my options because, I just wanted like some mobility now. So what happened? Yeah, so I applied to those 3 schools. I got into NYU and Harvard, and then I'm like, yes, Harvard again, great, that's
Wait, so
awesome.
Brown, the local school,
Yeah, rejected
did not.
me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I remember saying this prayer. I said, Lord, I don't even want to just get into Harvard. I want to get into little to no debt, because it wasn't for a year. It was like 90K, 80K, one of those two. So I got in, but then kept praying, like, okay, all right, I want to go. However, it's a lot of money. And then a couple weeks after me getting accepted, I got a call, I think from the dean, and it was just like, hey, we want to give you this scholarship, which basically covered the whole year. So God is faithful. God is good. Got to give him some praise. So I think
So wait a second. So you didn't have any debt from Harvard going to grad school?
like minimum debt, I think I had to take out like an extra loan, but that was like $5,000. So next to
Mm,
nothing. So
wow. And
really thankful.
honestly, even if you didn't get financial aid or something, our mom would have been like, "It doesn't matter. You going? We'll figure it out. You're going to Harvard." You
Yeah.
know what I'm
And
saying?
yeah, and I studied education policy as well. I think because I think there's like a common misconception as well, like, oh, Harvard Grad School of Education is just like a teaching strand. But honestly, like I wouldn't go for teaching because you can go to your local state school. It just wouldn't make
Mm,
any sense.
yeah.
But I knew it was like the top for education policy. And I'm so glad that I had the means because I think it was like probably one of the best years of my life. I think coming out of it, because I think it's been 3 years, almost 4 years since I graduated.
No, you graduated in 2018.
No, 2019.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been almost 4 years since I graduated from grad school. And again, I don't think I would have gotten the jobs. The last job that I complained about on the episode 2, I believe. I don't think I would have gotten that job. I don't even think I would have gotten this job. And I know that, what yesterday's price is not today's price. What by
Mm.
DJ Khaled? I know that now at 30, my income will keep going up and up and up because I had a graduate degree, especially in like the education field. And I really can't stand, and I know some people like to rag on the education system. Trust me, I know I have a lot of issues with the current state of US public education, but I really can't stand it, especially when I hear like black people say college is a scam, it's not worth it, and it's just like you wouldn't be in the position that you're in right now had it not been for you having some post secondary degree, a bachelor's degree. I was even looking it up just a couple of weeks ago that if
Mhm.
you are a low income person, especially a person of color who just has a bachelor's degree, your lifetime earning potential is 113%. That's a lot. So I think
What
when
do you
we,
mean 113%?
just in terms of like your lifetime earnings versus you having a high school diploma.
Oh, so it's 113% higher than someone who has a high school diploma. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, over the lifetime, like over their
Mhm.
lifetime. So I
Okay.
think that just like that one statistic also just kind of talks about the importance of having some type of degree. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go to college. Like, I'm going to talk a little bit later about how it isn't for everyone, but if it's not for you, what are some other high value trades that you can do that are in demand that will pay you more or pay you well over the course of your career? So, I just wanted to make that little tidbit.
So I'll talk a little bit about my student loan journey from undergrad to grad school. So I went to Boston University for undergrad. I think at the time, this was in 2002 when I started my freshman year, it was $42,000 a year. So, I mean, expensive. That was like 20, over 20 years ago, and it was $42,000 a year. So, but when I finished undergrad, like you, I didn't have student loan debt that was that bad. It was $20,000. So I think I was lucky.
Yeah.
But then when I went to grad school, it was between, for me, for grad school, it was between Columbia and Northwestern. Now, I always wanted to go to Northwestern ever since I saw an episode of Moesha. She wanted to be a
Really?
journalist. Yeah, she wanted to be a journalist and she wanted to go to Northwestern. And that was the first time I had ever heard about the school. So from then on, I did all my research, learned about it, applied for undergrad when I was in high school, like senior year of high school, did not get in. And then, ended up going to BU, which also had a really good journalism school. I was a little bit closer to home. I was in Boston, which has like a huge college population. So it all worked out. But when it came time to go to grad school, for some reason, I decided to get another journalism degree. I applied to Northwestern again. I happened to be working at Columbia at the time. I was an intern at the Columbia Journalism Review. So I had access to, one of the professors who was my editor at CJR wrote my recommendation for Columbia. I had a chance once I got in to talk to the dean of students, to make my decision, to help make my decision as I was comparing the two schools.
Yeah.
But then when it came, and I also got into Northwestern, obviously, when it came time for that financial aid, Columbia made the decision very easy for me
Yeah.
because so it would have at the time, this was in 2008 now, estimated cost for a year of grad school at Columbia. Northwestern was also a year program. It was going to be like $60,000.
Sheesh.
And then you also had to pay to live in New York City, which is like one of the most expensive cities in the world. So the financial aid they gave me a $30,000 loan. That was it.
Shit.
No grants, no scholarships. So I would have had to come up with $30,000 on my own,
Yeah.
and take out probably a high interest rate personal loan. And I was just like, I couldn't do that for a journalism degree when the job I would probably get coming out of school wouldn't cover, like, at that point, what, close to $100,000 in debt if you add from undergrad and then grad school. And then Northwestern, they covered everything. So
Mm,
I didn't have to come out of pocket at all. And it was like 60% grants, scholarships, 40% loans.
that's awesome.
And then another thing too, Northwestern is on a quarter system, not a semester system. So I was able to waive the first semester, a quarter of introductory classes. So that was another cost saving. So I was able to get my master's degree in 9 months instead of 12 months.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so all those things, made a difference. But after, but still, after getting my master's from Northwestern, plus the debt from undergrad, I was $55,000 in the hole.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's somebody's
it is a
salary.
lot of, exactly. So technically, it took me 13 years to pay off my student loans. But so from 2006, when I graduated undergrad, to 2019, I paid off my student loans December 2019. But I actually paid off more than half my student loans from 2018 to 2019.
Yeah.
My business was doing well. I was like, I'm not, because I was making like the minimum payments, maybe like
Yeah.
$250 a month. And I started paying a little bit more every month, but it was not going down. It was like, it looked like I wasn't paying anything. That feeling
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're paying. I was like, I need to get rid of these loans, or else I'm going to still be paying student loans when my son's in college. I'm going to be paying for my college while my son is in college.
Yeah.
So I decided to just pay it off. Like, accelerate it, get rid of it. And I knew we also wanted to buy a house. So I just wanted to clear the table.
Yeah.
And I was able to pay it off. So, that was a huge accomplishment and a huge weight off my shoulders. But at the same time, what happened, like December 2019, I paid it off. March 2020, it was a pandemic. The whole world shut down. I was like, damn it, should I have done that? But it all worked out. I'd rather not have that debt than still have it.
Yeah. And I know we've gotten into, I would say, some heated arguments about student loan debt relief and where we stand on that. Congratulations on paying your loans. I'm still, I mean, honestly, like if
Hmm.
I like really kind of buckle down, I'm sure that I could pay it off in like a year or so.
Yeah.
But I've been paying the minimum payments. I also wanted to add too, like, even though I was making next to nothing after Mount Holyoke College doing AmeriCorps programs, they did have an AmeriCorps Ed Award. So that was, I think, 2 years was like $14,000. So that could go to your student loan. So even though I wasn't getting paid shit, I, it was helpful to just have that. So if in the event that I knew I was going to go to grad school, at least I could have that in, you know, uh,
So did that help pay for grad school?
that helped paid that helped paid for grad school, but that also paid helped pay for like Mount Holyoke as well, like when I
Okay.
was out of debt. And then also too, because we weren't getting paid anything like at AmeriCorps as well, like we had to put our loans into forbearance and like it wouldn't accumulate interest. So because when you're in the field of education, especially if you're doing AmeriCorps type programs, kind of think about Peace Corps, but AmeriCorps is like more so domestic and you're doing public service. So I was thankful that aside from like wanting to do good in the world, like it wasn't going to get back to me. But kind of going back to what we were talking about our contentious arguments on student loan debt relief and
Mhm.
forgiveness, that I am a big proponent of that
Of
because
spending money, yes.
girl, spending money. But I think because of the career that I'm in and also
Mhm.
working with a lot of high school students at the time, just working with a lot of low income youth who I'm sure whose parents similar to ours told them education can't be taken away from you, all those types of things. And then you don't know how to navigate the college process. You are in on campus. You're probably experiencing all this culture shock. You probably don't know what office hours are, like just so many things. And then you get the degree, you graduate, and then you have a whole bunch of debt. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of teenagers probably didn't have the resources that I had in that going out to seek other nonprofits such as a College Visions to kind of weigh my options. So I think about the reason why I'm so pro Biden's plan is I know that if he wiped off 20,000 or more, a lot of low income students who are looking to, live a better life, that can be knocked out and they can afford homes. They don't have, they can afford homes, they can build businesses, they can do things without having that heavy burden of debt. And like as you know, with a little bit about Biden's plan, there's 45 million people who are in debt. That's a lot of people. That is 1 in 7 people. And in addition to that, I think they said the average income per capita of people who applied for like the student loan debt relief, their average salaries was what, like in the 30,000s. Yeah,
Yeah,
30.
35,000.
Yeah, $35,000. So again, a lot of people who qualify for this, it will have like a huge burden lifted off of their shoulders. And then also from ages 25 to 34, we're more, so I guess I'm in that age range, we're more likely to hold on to our student debt. Whereas, you know, those who are 35 to 49, so you're in that category, are
Mhm.
more likely to owe more money in student loans. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really excited. I know currently the plan is stonewalled by the Supreme Court, and hopefully they do the right thing, but I think this would be such a huge win for not even just like low income students of color and first gen, but just everyone, right? Like they keep telling America keeps the government, oh, you need to build businesses, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then all of a sudden, when we want to better our lives, not only for ourselves and our families, you're going to, you know, stonewall this plan. Like it's nonsense.
Okay.
That's all you have to say. So,
No,
because,
I was waiting for you to finish discussing your side of the argument, and then I was going to say my piece because I
okay,
think we have different perspectives about what the right thing is in this situation.
okay. So, I mean, I'm done with saying my piece for now. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
So I feel the opposite. I would say in the beginning I was very anti this, and now I'm more ambivalent about it. So my original argument against this was fundamentally on, I will admit, was selfish. It was like I worked my ass off to pay off my student loans, and now I'm going to have to pay for other people's student loans on top of it. How is that fair?
Oh gosh.
That's what I felt. But there was this article I came across in Forbes from this researcher who studies finance in higher education. His name is Preston Cooper, and I feel like it perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this issue. So I just want to read a little bit of the article. So out of 255 million American adults, just 45 million have federal student loan debt. If economic relief is in order, it's highly inequitable to distribute tens of thousands of dollars to the 45 million while the other 210 million get nothing. Underlying student loan forgiveness is the logic that people who attended college in the recent past are more deserving of government assistance than everyone else, which makes little sense. For the cost of forgiving $10,000 in debt per borrower, the federal government could instead cut every American adult a check for just under $1,500. Moreover, people who never attended college at all have been impacted the most by the pandemic and the recession. Those with a high school degree, to your point, you sort of talked about this, have a higher unemployment rate than people with college degrees, more than double, almost double the unemployment rate. So, as an economic relief part policy, student loan forgiveness gets it exactly backwards. Lastly, in the absence of other reforms, forgiving debt sets a precedent. Student borrowers and the colleges they attend may rightly expect another cancellation to happen at some point in the future when outstanding debt again climbs too high. This creates an incentive to borrow more. It also gives colleges another reason to hike tuition. And that's part of my problem. It's like putting a band aid on a bullet wound. So this does not solve the systemic problem of why is college so damn expensive in the first place. And so I did a little bit of research on this, and there was an economist, Catherine Hill, former president of Vassar College. And do you know why college is so expensive? There are several reasons, but what is the main reason you think?
Salaries of the staff.
Yeah, so about 60 to 70% of costs are driven by compensation for people that work at these institutions. And I'm sorry, I don't need to be taught by Henry Louis Gates Jr., a Nobel laureate or a Rhodes Scholar
Why you
for
gotta
every
play them
class.
like that?
For
Stop.
every class. No, I'm saying if that's what's making it so expensive, there are great academics who don't cost an arm and a leg. And there's no shade to Professor Gates. He's one of our most treasured professors. But
You threw
Like,
some massive shade. I hope you don't listen
it's
to
not
this too.
specifically toward him, but I'm talking about the salaries. And then also, colleges provide more stuff than they did 50 years ago, like mental health services and career counseling, which is important. And then also, with public colleges, the reason why it's gotten more expensive is because they don't get as much federal funding. So the federal government has deinvested and states have deinvested in higher education. I also noticed, and I think there was a segment on this about at on 60 Minutes one time. This was a few years ago, that colleges are spending all this money to construct these high-rise buildings, new dorms, new this, new that, and they're passing this the cost on to students. Like, I remember when we moved back to Boston, and I drove through BU's campus. I hadn't been there in like 15 years at the time, and I'm looking around while we're driving through there, and I'm seeing all these high-rise glass buildings and stuff. I'm like, this is where the money reside. You know what I'm
Where the
saying?
money reside.
That's where the money reside. And I think if you ask students and their families, is this worth the trade off? Would you have this if it meant you have to pay an extra $20,000 in student loan debt? I feel a lot of people would say no. I think it's bad policy. If you're really going to address this problem, don't make it a one time gift. Fix these issues about college affordability. Like, do something to make college more affordable in the first place.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, you had a couple of points that I wanted to go back to. So when you
Okay.
said that, the Biden student loan debt relief policy, the plan is basically backwards. How would you justify what happened in the pandemic with the stimulus checks, but also people that had businesses, aka could
I didn't
apply.
get First of all, I didn't get no stimulus.
I
My
no, but
family didn't get no economic stimulus. I didn't get no business stimulus. Let's put that on the table.
okay, I'm just
Okay.
saying, but your colleagues who also own businesses could
Hmm.
could get PPE loans, right?
Yeah,
And but
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, but what I'm saying is, and I loved how Biden had a good clap back for people who were against it. Of like, okay, you don't agree with the plan, but like in whenever the pandemic was in 2020, you're applying for millions of dollars that was forgiven. So I guess like I wanted to hear from you first point, like
Yeah, and
how do you
that's
just justify that? Is that bad policy as well?
and that's a fair argument. And granted, I know as a society or as individual taxpayers, we pay for things that have a greater societal benefit that we don't individually benefit for. Like, for example, farm subsidies and, corporate tax breaks and incentives and all that stuff. I get that. But someone has to pay for this. We already have, and this is another argument that Cooper made in his article. Like, this liability, student loan debt just doesn't appear. The liability just shifts from the individual borrower to America's, balance book. So we end up paying for it anyway. You're ending up paying for it anyway, even though you're getting this relief.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's just like solve, I hate it when politicians do these, like, I hate using the word handouts because that, the other side uses that term a lot, but they give these things, but they don't solve the underlying issue. The thing is, it's a one-time gift. So the people who paid their loans before aren't going to benefit from it, and the people who pay their loans years from now, even a couple years from now, aren't going to benefit from it. So how does that solve the problem?
So to kind of go back to what you were saying, so you said from Cooper, he said over 200,000 people have paid off their loans, whereas
No,
45,
he's saying 45 million people in the country have student loan debt and
yeah.
210 million don't. So it's not fair. This is which I agree with, to do something just for the benefit of these 45 million when the 210 million get absolutely nothing in return for it. And I know people again will say, well, we have all these different government programs that already do something similar. But it's like, when does it stop? Like, there has to be a fine line. Like, if you want to do this, find a way to pay for it and to make it an actual long-term benefit and not a one-time benefit.
So when you say that this plan is not doesn't address a systemic issue because the government is potentially giving, as you said in episode 1, freebies, don't you think more like given this plan and given what I said earlier about low income students having high interest debt could, kind of be like, okay, college isn't for me. Let me go another way. Do you feel like that doesn't address a systemic issue? Because my thing is, if this goes away, maybe it will incentivize people who are, yeah, I think it would incentivize people who are low income, first gen, whatever, to go to college and not necessarily worry about the debt like associated with for it. So I guess, like, do you feel like that's not a systemic issue, that a lot of people of color are
But
not in
you're making
college?
it seem like people who are first generation and who come from low income households aren't making that decision to go to college anyway. They
They
are.
are.
But
No,
and
they
also, like you said before, college is not the only option. You could go to trade school, you could go to community college, you could go to state school. You don't have to, you can go to college for and find a way to make it more
more
affordable.
affordable. Yeah, no, and I think it depends on the family. I think it depends on your goals, your needs. Like, I know
Mhm.
in Rhode Island, I don't know if this is still the case, and shame on me for not knowing this, but I know there have been certain states that make community college free for 2 years, and then they can go to a state school. So there are some plans that are some states that are looking to make college more affordable, and I think it just depends on your family's needs. And then also too, I think sometimes when I talk about post secondary, I don't just mean college. I mean like trade schools, 2 year colleges. I think it just depends on, again, what that student is looking to do long term. And then I think also too, like, you don't always have to figure it out. I knew like I wanted to do some type of service based work, but would 17-year-old Jaretta look at 30-year-old Jaretta and think like I would be in this certain type of career with grant writing? Probably not. You know what I mean? So I don't think you have it figured out. But what I am saying is, I think I just, from a policy lens, yes, I do agree. For some people,
It's kind of trash.
no, I was not going to say that. But what I am
That's what
going to
I'm
say,
saying.
like, I'm thinking about the whole, right? I'm thinking about the people who want to, um, how can I formulate my thought? And Bethany, I mean, you can do your chopping in the editing. But I guess, like, what I'm trying to say is, out of the 45 million people that have student loan debt, who want yeah, out of the 45 million people that have student loan debt, who we know that will earn more money over the course of their career versus having a high school diploma degree, why not give them some type of aid? Especially if, again, from these same politicians who say, hey, we need to build back America. We need to focus on our economy. We need to focus on small businesses and all that type of stuff. Like, why not? And maybe because it's just the liberal in me, but I do believe that we should help, regardless of your zip code, regardless of what you identify as. And I know it sounds very blue of me, but that's just
Mhm.
my perspective. And I know you're coming from, hey, shit, I paid for my things. But also, too, sis, I will also add this. You said in a couple episodes you own your own business. You've been doing this for 8, 9 years.
Mhm.
Would you have this similar tune if you did not have your business, your small business, and you had, you know, you were still doing journalism?
Probably not. Like
Exactly. So
yeah, probably if I could. And I said that at the outset. Like I was like, damn, I just paid off my student loans. Now they want to pay off everybody's student loans. Obviously, and I'm only human. I admit that. But like, if I would benefit from this, probably I wouldn't be as against it.
exactly.
But I have a question for you. Student loan debt isn't the only type of debt people carry.
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable with the government paying off people's mortgage loan debt or subsidizing part of their mortgage loan debt?
Well, I think that's a good
Because
question.
because people would be like, you made the choice to go to college. I didn't tell you to go to college. Just like you made the choice to own a home. I didn't tell you to buy a home. So if we're paying off debt, let's put all debt on the table. Let's put some consumer debt on the table. Let's put some mortgage debt on the table.
I guess I haven't thought about that, and thank you for raising that point. I think, again, because I'm in the education profession, I think it's just more personal to me, maybe because I'm also a beneficiary of this student
Yeah,
loan plan.
true.
plan. You know what I mean? Americans keep saying that education can't be taken away from you, all these types of things, like this is the pathway to earning more money, and not only earning more money but can afford to buy a house and all these extra things. So I I'm like, if it starts at education, why not give folks help? So, okay, what else do you think about? Because in addition to Biden's student loan plan, I know that because I'm in a public service sector, if I keep making my payments, I think it's 120 payments,
Yeah, 10
that
years.
that I'm eligible to get it all away erased. Are you against that as well?
No, and thank you for mentioning that. I would have much rather preferred, and I meant to say this in the beginning, that they make adjustments to what is it, the Public Student Loan
Loan
Service
forgiveness?
Forgiveness
Yeah.
Program. I forgot what the acronym is. Like instead, I feel like 10 years is a long time to ask someone to be in the public sector, low in a lower paying job to get their student loans forgiven. Maybe change it to 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And that was another thing issue I had. I was like, this feels like something for nothing. Like
Mm,
what we can pay off people's student loan debt, but can we get some larger societal benefit back in return? In addition to all the things you said about the economic benefit, like giving people a chance to maybe buy a home and do other things they couldn't do because they had student loan payments. But like, why not structure it that way? Like, yeah, you get $20,000 forgiven, but maybe you work for an organization, and it could even be a private sector organization that's a partner with the government, and you're doing something that's focused on giving back to the community. Just like, let's say you work for a law firm and you do a certain number of pro bono hours every year. Like, why
yeah.
couldn't it have been structured that way?
Yeah.
Like I had a fundamental problem, obviously, because I was like, I'm not benefiting from it. But also, like I said, it was bad policy, the way it was structured and went about. And if this passes sometimes after, this podcast airs, I feel like it's going to be stalled by the courts for some time. But
Oh yeah, I'm
like,
sure.
find a way to structure it better. It just didn't make sense to me. The
Yeah, and
way it was just like, we're just gonna wave a magic wand and all you people are gonna pay off all these other people's student loans. Who's not gonna have? Most people are gonna have a problem with that. That's like me going to buy a house and being like, Jaretta, can you give me $20,000 for a down payment? You'd be like, get the hell out of here. Get out of my face.
pass by my face. Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, this is such a nuanced type
It is.
of topic. I think obviously because we have our personal associations with it, like we feel strongly about it. And I think going back to the public loan service, like I have to
Hmm.
make 120
20
qualified.
payments.
Yeah, and then over 10 years, I think I'm in year 8. I have to kind of go back, but I know they simplified the process because before the pandemic, people were like, shit, like I'm eligible, I'm qualified, but I have to write all these letters and go through some hoops. So I'm glad that they simplified the process, but like don't create these programs and make people through hoops to qualify too. Like that's not a great incentive as well. Like even though it's there, like if I can't apply in an easy way, if I don't really know the process, what's the point? But that's just like another aside for another day. But
Yeah. So to wrap up, I guess let's go back to the main premise of this episode, which is, I'll ask you this, Jaretta. Were your student loans worth it to you?
of course, of course.
Why?
I don't think I would be the professional I am today if it wasn't without it. Like I said, from me being in the education sector and me having kind of low paying public assistant jobs that also helped me out in the back end when it came to going to grad school, I think it was well worth it. I think my because of the experiences that I had before going to Harvard was worth it. I don't like regret that at all. How about you?
I definitely think it was worth it. I don't think I'd be sitting here in the position am now had I not
You see?
gotten those 2 degrees. So I definitely think it was worth it. I'm also done paying my student loans, so I can look at it back on it with nostalgia and be like, I think if I was still paying student loans, I might have more complex feelings about it. I believe, education is the great equalizer. We just
Yeah, I was
have to
gonna say that.
find a way to make affording it more equal,
Yeah,
and not put these band-aids on things that don't fix systemic issues.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to add one thing too, because my education policy background, but then also working with a lot of like high school youth and over the past almost decade, I think it's really important. I know oftentimes we tell our students, hey, go to college, go to this, but I think it's also really important to let students explore past their core classes to see what they really want to do.
True.
So I know in Rhode Island, there is this statewide initiative that's free for all students called the All Course Network. And basically, what that is it offers different programs for students for free, and in all different types of categories. Like they have AP classes, they have work-based learning classes, they have dual credit classes, and it's basically funded by the state. But then also too, the people that have these courses are run by organizations, nonprofits, colleges, and all that. So I would be great to kind of see different states kind of have a similar initiative. So if I'm a high school student, I don't know what I really want to do, I don't have to wait till junior or senior year to figure out what I want to do. I can take classes in ninth grade and kind of have my little buffet of like, I'm really interested in education, but let me take this education course, or let me do some, related education things in different types of sectors to see if that's something I'm interested in. Let me have this internship to see if this is something that I might want to pursue for a major or whatever. And I think if we give kids options, and also making sure that those state initiatives are equitable, and because oftentimes, and the reason why I know about this as well is my last job, I was responsible for, getting our kids into these classes. And one thing that kind of sucked about it, even though it was great, was it was often heard about from, like, often people that took those courses were in like the prep schools or in, the
Hmm.
wealthier districts, whereas like, lower income kids, they wanted to take the course, but they had to get confirmation from their guidance counselor, and their guidance counselor, if they found that they were failing in a core class, they wouldn't let them take it. So, these little barriers, if a
Hmm.
child wants to you know do a trade or go to college, like, don't make an extra barrier of be like, oh, he's failing his core classes, why should he take this class? And I get it. I think we kind of limit our students experiences. And again, sorry for the diatribe. As you can tell,
You're
this
passionate about it.
yes, this Mount Holyoke and Harvard degree ain't paid for nothing. So I'm gonna give you some content.
Yes, sis.
I'm
Yes,
gonna give you
sis.
this content to
Hmm.
know what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you have any kids, if you have any little siblings, let them explore a little bit, and I think that will have greater returns in the long run.
Yeah, and to that point, I think it's ridiculous to expect someone at 16, 17, even 18 to know what they want to do the rest of their life, and to have to make this big financial decision about where to go to college and what kind of degree to pursue at that point. I think the
Yeah.
stakes are too high to ask a teenager to make that kind of decision. So, we have to lower that barrier in terms of making school more affordable. To me, grad school is really where you figure out what you want to do. I think
For
you have to
sure.
make a more carefully considered decision there because you're specializing in something. So make college more affordable, and then grad school, we can figure that part out later. But yeah, this is a problem that we need to be more diligent and thoughtful about solving, and not provide short term, you know, giveaways that don't really solve the problem, in my view.
Well, and you already know my view, so
We sure do.